Welcome to the Jets UK podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andres Groves. I'm joined by one of my co-hosts, David Wyatt-Hupton. How you doing, David?
Doing good. I'm doing good. It's almost the end of the week. Had to navigate my daughter into the car this morning. She was using the classic ironing board technique, called defensive, rigid as a board. Got to kind of push you into a car seat. So I'm still not 100% sure what offensive scheme to use against that. So if anyone's got any suggestions, let me know, because she is an absolute little nightmare at getting in the car at the minute.
Is that when you try to buckle into the car seat and she's just like lying across the top of it?
Yeah, she's lying across. She wants to do it, and then nursery are like, you've got to drop her off in this 10-minute window, like they've never met a 2-year-old before.
Oh
Like,
wow!
am I supposed to drop her off in 10? Like, I can try and do that, but if she's not going to get in her car seat, I can't run her there.
Yeah, with my 2-year-old, we've got like a front panel that goes in front of his chest, and then you put the belt across it. And every time you go to grab the belt, he just like fires it off into the front, into the driver's seat. So I have to keep on pushing it down with one hand and then do the whole belt with one hand. So yeah, lots of
it's like a magician, isn't it? It's like a magician.
Toddler wrangling is as difficult as being.
It's 100% the hardest thing I do every day. Without that,
we're Jets fans as well. So that's
getting her into the car seat, actually negotiating her getting dressed, negotiating her having breakfast, negotiating not having TV until she comes home, and then getting her in the car seat, and then getting her out of the car seat. It's impossible. 8:45. I'm so happy. It's done. It's done.
Yes, I'm sure anyone with children can relate to that. But yeah, it's difficult, but also being Jets fan, it can be difficult, but not this week. We're feeling pretty good this week after that incredible win on Sunday. How are you feeling generally about things overall? We're 1-1. We're already kind of competitive. We're showing competitive spirit. How are you feeling about things at this stage of the season as we head to our third game?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, the positive vibes were flowing after Sunday anyway. There was always that little element in the back of your head, kind of like Cleveland lost it. Yeah, they did lose quite a bit. But if you actually go back and watch the game, I mean, we shouldn't have been that far down anyway. So that's the positive. Kind of, we've seen these clips going around of Elijah Moore getting open pretty much on every play. That's great news. He didn't get the receptions, but if you're getting open, those will come. Garrett Wilson, I wrote about it this morning. He could have had an absolute monster game. Some better placement by Joe Flacco and his 250 yard performance. So the fact he's got that in his arsenal, that makes me feel really confident. Defensively, I think that we need a bounce back game this year, this week, but this year anyway, but this week in particular. So it's going to be really interesting to see how we cope with Joe Burrow and what we learned from how the Dallas Cowboys kind of ramshackled the whole offense to a point.
Yeah, the defense needs to take a step up, like we said on the recap, that if we got a good chance of actually being truly competitive and not come back with these crazy comeback victories, the defense is going to have to hold up better than it has been. I'm not saying it has to be perfect, but we need to see a little bit better from them. But a lot of positives coming out of that game from what we were able to do to pick up the win. So and as we look at this Bengals game, and we'll preview it later, it's looking like some of their deficiencies might work in our favour, and we match up quite well with them, which we haven't done with the other two AFC North, rivals of theirs, so that we faced so far. So, yeah, it's kind of an interesting game, and I know there's things that people are flying out. We got the London meetup with the Jets, the UK and Ireland group got the London meetup. So if you're in the area in the southeast, make your way there for a fun time with other Jets fans, and hopefully we have a successful game against the Bengals like we did last year. And I think the other big news is not. I guess it's not that much big news. The injury report is looking pretty light. We need to know more as the week goes on. We've only got the Wednesday report, but I guess the big news is obviously Nick Mangold being inducted into the Ring of Honor. What are your thoughts on Nick and what he did with the Jets?
I mean, everything that needs to be said about Nick has kind of already been said. He's a fantastic player. He was kind of one of my favourite players over the last decade. Just reliable, consistently one of the best centres in the league for 164 appearances or whatever, how many he had. So, he deserves to be in there. He's going to get a massive ovation at the weekend. I'm really looking forward to seeing his number up there. So, I'm excited about it. I mean, I love Nick Mangold. I like offensive line play. You know how much I like offensive line play. We were really lucky to go from Maui to Mangold, and McGovern's certainly not at that standard. But we've been spoiled for centre play for what is pretty much 2 decades. So
I mean, that's the
McGovern's
Jets,
going to
right?
look pretty poor
I mean,
in
people
comparison.
like the Packers go from like Favre to Rodgers, and we go from great center to another great center. Like that's our trajectory of what the Jets done. And nothing to take away from centers, but it's a little bit different than the QB position. So hopefully, the QB we're going to know more about the QB position. I mean, this week's been more questions at Salah saying, is that going to be the guy afterwards? Joe had his one good game, completely ignoring that. He was absolutely shocking in the first week. So at best, he's inconsistent, right? And we're already calling for him to basically keep Zach out, which would obviously derail the future of where we're trying to go with the team. We need to know one way or the other with Zach. It's just ridiculous take. So I don't want to spend too much airtime on it because it's honestly just garbage stuff. And we look forward to Zach. Zach's obviously looking good in training. From what we've seen, and hopefully he's back for next week's game at Pittsburgh. So fingers crossed on that one. We're going to dive into. So later on, me and David will be jumping into our kind of preview, breaking down the different matchups that we'll have, and something that we look to try and get that points to how we get to the victory that we want so badly to get to 2-1. But first, we're going to go into an interview that I have with Jamie from WhoDey UK. We spoke with him last year before that game, and we're chatting to him for this game as well. So we're going to head to that, and then we'll be back after that. So we'll head to the interview with Jamie now. Okay, so we're joined by Jamie from WhoDey UK, which is the Bengals UK group. They also run their podcast as well. Jamie, thanks for joining us on the pod for the second year in a row.
Yeah, it's great to see you again. It feels kind of weird coming back to the Jets last year, given how that went last year.
Very strange.
But there were some themes there which have recurred again this year, which I'm sure we'll delve into.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a crazy game. You guys were full of confidence, and rightly so. You absolutely were like the hottest team in the NFL on a great streak there, and you went up against Mike White after Zach Wilson was injured the week before, and you just don't expect what's going to happen. And it was on Halloween, and it was just one of those weird, wacky games that happens in the NFL once in a while. So it was just an interesting moment. But obviously we sparked off a good friendship, and obviously when you guys made the Super Bowl, I was rooting for you guys, obviously, because it's kind of a fellow underdog team that kind of has risen up a bit. But this year you've kind of come back down, I guess, a little bit into the start's been a bit slow. But how have you felt about the off season? Coming off that Super Bowl loss, you worry about a bit of sleepiness in that second season, the season after. A bit of hangover, as they always say. How are you feeling about the off-season additions, any of the new additions that you made, and going into the season? How did you feel?
Well, before the season started, the off-season additions looked really good. They'd made an effort to address the offensive line, which had been the major issue towards the back of last season that had affected things. Obviously, they lost the Super Bowl because they couldn't keep clean pockets for Joe Burrow. There was the playoff game against the Titans where he was constantly under pressure, and that was a big issue. Now, part of the line has been solved, part of the line hasn't been solved. So the interior, which is 3 new guys, so two new guards and a new centre, they've been great, they've been fine. But the 2 tackles, one was returning from last year, Jonah Williams, and the other is a fairly high-profile free agency addition in Lyle Collins from the Cowboys. They've both not shown up. So if you were looking kind of a couple of weeks ago, you would have thought that would have been fine. But it's not shown so far.
Right, yeah. I mean, that line is something that we're looking at the moment with the amount of times Joe Burrow is getting sacked. As any opponent, you're looking at weaknesses on a team that's got a lot of talent, as you guys have, and looking at where you could attack them. And that line is definitely one where you look at the stats and it doesn't look great, especially on Jonah Williams as well. But I mean, Lyle Collins looks maybe we're recording this on Thursday. We don't know if he's going to be available for the game. He's obviously missed some practice, so We have to keep an eye on that one. But if he misses, then obviously it's going to be a backup. And obviously we may not know backups, but most backups in the NFL, you're in trouble when you deal with the backup offensive line because the talent drops off quite quickly at that position. So, I mean, that's obviously a chink of where we could maybe get at you. Is there any other kind of additions? We obviously had Dax Hill was the kind of the main draft pick. How some of the draft picks looked? How some of the other additions that you brought in looked as well?
Okay, so I mean, the most successful draft pick so far has been one of the guards I mentioned earlier. We drafted a guy called Cordell Walson out of North Dakota State in the 4th round, and he has started from day one, and he has looked fine. He's looked okay. He's significantly better at pass blocking than run blocking, but he has sort of set himself on the way. The two major additions that we made through the draft were Dax Hill, who is a safety, and Cam Taylor-Britt, who's a cornerback. Now, Cam has been injured since preseason, but when he comes back, the idea, I think, is that he will start putting pressure on Eli Apple and eventually may start starting by the end of the year.
Right.
I think we would have wanted to have seen a bit more out of Dax Hill than we currently have. That said, the defense hasn't really been the problem this year, but there was a lot of hype about Dax in the preseason. He made quite a few plays throughout preseason, very athletic plays. One diving, almost interception. One kind of very alert interception, which they pricked up the ears of Bengals fans, and we were really after seeing a bit more of Dax Hill getting involved. But it hasn't happened yet. He's a rookie. It may well happen over time.
Yeah. I mean, these rookies sometimes they all take their own time to come along. But yeah, I was a big fan of Dax Hill in the draft, and thought that was a good selection where you got him at the end of the first. So we'll obviously keep an eye on that one, and maybe it's a game like these. Sometimes these games where you don't realize, sometimes you don't kind of realize it's coming. These first rounders come out, the talent comes out all of a sudden, and a game like Sunday, it could come out. So. Definitely a talented player you selected there. In terms of the season started, obviously 0-2, really tough loss in week 1. Crazy game here versus Pittsburgh. Obviously losing to a division rival in a horrific way with the craziness that happened there, and obviously disappointing to lose to Cooper Rush and the Cowboys in week 2. How have you felt about? Obviously, that doesn't look great 0-2, but sometimes. It can be a bit deceiving. How do you feel about the team and the start they've made?
It's been very disappointing, to be honest. You're looking at the Steelers this year; they aren't a good team, and
they just lost to the Pats.
They've got
and
the Pats they've got Trubisky at quarterback. They've got. I mean, they did have TJ Watt when they played us. They now don't have him, so now they have nobody really on defense. I think we should, with all things equal, have beaten Pittsburgh. There are a lot of weird things that happened in that game. Obviously, Joe had a really bad sort of start to it.
Yeah.
Sort of giving away 5 turnovers. That's no way to win a game. And you're thinking that 2 missed kicks, 5 turnovers given away, and you're still only losing by 3 after overtime. How bad are that Steelers team in comparison?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very disappointing not to come away with anything in that one. The Cowboys game, obviously going up against a backup. We know about the Bengals and backups. It happened with the Jets last year. It's a recurring theme.
We mentioned that on our pod. Yeah, like it's they got an issue with backups, and you got another backup this week as well. It's funny enough. So you can never face Zach. You can.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because this is going to be 2 records going against each other, because you've got the Bengals' record against backups, which is very poor, and you've got their record against Joe Flacco, which is pretty good.
Right, okay.
His career record against Bengals is not great from his time in Baltimore. Obviously, it was a completely different Bengals team at that point. Every single time he played the Ravens in the 2010s, it just seemed like AJ Green would end up with 200 yards. So, maybe looking at these kind of historic precedents isn't that big a thing. But we know about Flacco a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's funny for him to be filling in for Zach for the first three games and maybe four, but it's looking like Zach will be back for the Steelers game next week. But Joe, we've been through the AFC North. We've started off with the whole AFC North. So Joe Flacco's done his tour of he played his previous team. His former team to start off, then he's gone to Cleveland Bengals, and then and the Steelers is what we've lined up for him if he does play all four. So it's just an interesting dynamic for Flacco to go against teams that he knows very well. But yeah, in terms of this Sunday's game, you guys obviously are going to be really pushing for that win. We're really pushing to kind of fight the narrative that we're just a pushover and we're lucky to win against Cleveland. I mean, as we've said, they threw away the game, but former Jet, we said it on our pod, the former Jets teams have given the game back. Like they just don't want to have it. Like that we took the opportunity and overturned that. Incredible! It was an incredible game, but we overturned it, and that shows that we have the ability in the squad if we get things together. We're desperate to kind of get things rolling as well. Like so, it's not you guys are desperate to get that win and kind of turn the narrative of what's happening right now, but I think it's two teams who are really going to be going at it on Sunday. I'm really excited for this matchup as well. How are you feeling about Sunday's game? Up in the same place you played last year, up in Metlife Stadium.
I think the biggest thing for the Bengals is actually getting the offense firing again. The feeling on the first two games is that they've been getting in the way of themselves. They've not got the ball into the hands of playmakers. Obviously, there's been problems with Joe Burrow and takeaways. There's been problems with his pass protection. Some of that's on Joe. Some of that's sort of Joe not knowing when to throw the ball away. Some of that is poor play from the tackles. I would hope that the Bengals coaching have seen the problems that they've been having and would try to go after the Jets early. And that will mean probably trying to scheme people open, trying to get the ball into Jamar's hands early. It's not going to be like last year. It's not going to be like the first month of last year where nobody really knew what was going on with Jamar. And so they left him alone a bit. Everyone's zeroing in on him. So maybe you need to be more creative in how you do that.
And do you feel that? Are you still confident in Zach Taylor and his staff to have that kind of creativity to kind of get out of the mire when teams know what they're expecting rather than a surprise team like last year?
I'm not confident in Zach Taylor's ability to do that.
Right.
But you can always hope, and you
Of
can always
course.
hope that
That's what we have.
at some at some point, there's an amount of common sense there, and you've got to think you've got to get out the way of what the Bengals are trying. The Bengals have had a very obviously a very star-studded offense, but a very predictable offense. So whenever they go out in sort of with Burrow under center, 90% of the time it's a run. They very rarely use play action out of it. They very rarely, to be fair, throw out of that formation. Even rarer when they show some of the personnel. I think if Stanley Morgan is on the field, one of the receivers, he doesn't catch. He's just there for blocking. So that is 90% guaranteed to be a run.
Yeah.
There does need to be more creativity.
It's the worst thing that can happen if a person's not creative. It can really stifle the talent you've got on the team. And as Adam Gase showed with us the year before, if you've got no talent and that mentality, it leads to being one of the worst teams in the NFL, and that's what happened. So you guys got the talent, but you need to pair that up with some creativity because NFL teams, it's a chess game, isn't it? They're trying to stop each other, looking at everything that they can to stop you, and if you're not shaking it up, moving it around, people are going to suss you out very quickly and make it very difficult for your star players to make an impact. So hopefully that continues from a Jets perspective, and our guys will be looking to take advantage of that. But yeah, you guys got to make the most of your players, and we obviously are very concerned about some of the quality you have in those players. And we know the star players, right? We know Jamar Chase, we know T. Higgins, and Joe Mixon, and what Joe Burrow can do with the offense, some of the defensive players. Who's a guy who has maybe, since we played you last year, so we know quite a lot of the team, but who's a guy who maybe has stepped up a bit, could make a difference on Sunday that we don't, maybe are not aware of?
So CJ Uzomah left and went to the Jets. We replaced him with Hayden Hurst, who came over in free agency from the Falcons, and he's looked very much the full package at tight end. He's very difficult to cover. He's quicker than he seems. He's very athletic. There's been a lot of quite spectacular catches, quite a lot of toe tapping catches. He reminds me a lot of early career Tyler Eifert in how he goes about things.
Right.
And he's definitely been an addition to this offense. Obviously, the Bengals' problems have shown up in the red zone on offense. They're not hugely good given the talent that they have there at completing drives with touchdowns, and they tend to settle for field goals a lot. Adding Hayden Hurst might change that, and hopefully in the coming weeks they see him as the kind of player who can be a finisher for this offense, particularly in the red zone.
Yeah, Hayden Hurst is that guy. He's the trivia question, is it? Who did the Ravens select in the first round before they selected Lamar Jackson? And that was Hayden Hurst. So he's got first round pedigree in there. He's a guy who's bounced around a bit, but definitely has some ability. So yeah, we've got a bit of a history of not really dealing with with tight ends that well. I think it's getting better. I think we've got some good. As the talent improves around the Jets, we're able to do a better job with them. But still, something that we have to. If there's a decent tight end, you've got to keep an eye on him and see how we manage that. In terms of predictions, Jamie, do you want to throw out a few predictions? First one, kind of stat prediction, and then we'll do a score prediction after.
Okay. Well, I want to sort of talk this one into being, because there has been a lot of doom and gloom among Bengals fans this year, and particularly with Joe being under pressure all the time. My prediction, and this is based on nothing. This is based on no confidence in the Bengals O-line.
Pure fandom. It's based on pure fandom, is it?
Yeah, it's based on pure fandom.
Yeah.
It's based on overlooking the talent that the Jets have in their pass rush, and there is talent there.
Yeah.
But I think Joe Burrow goes throughout this game completely untouched. There are no sacks given up by the Bengals, and hopefully that's half a job towards the offense actually working this week.
We'll see if your old guy Carl Lawson's got anything to say for that. He's coming back from his Achilles injury last year, and he's looked okay. He got a pretty important sack last week against the Browns, and so yeah, he's coming back he's getting back from the Achilles injury, which is it's probably the worst injury right now in the NFL. So, but he's looking okay, and maybe against his former team he turns it on. So we'll see how that one turns out if you're able to hold out. But yeah. You better hope that's the only way that's going to happen. If Joe's under duress again, it's going to make it very difficult against any NFL team. So in terms of score prediction, Jamie, what are you feeling about the score?
Hopefully, the defense keeps on turning it on as they have. I'm still not confident that the Bengals can get the offense fully firing yet, but if there is some output, I'd be glad of that. 24-17 or 24-14 feels around about where I'd want to put a score prediction. Obviously, we've still not won yet, and the Jets managed to pull off that incredible win last week.
Yeah.
So there's no underestimating any team in the NFL, particularly no underestimating any team in the NFL when you've not had a particularly good start.
Yeah.
I just hope that we're able to put it all together for once and actually do a job.
Well, you definitely got the talent. It's not an unrealistic score prediction. You guys are favoured by 5 points by Vegas, so I'm a little bit more bullish, obviously, on our side, and you could probably expect that. But I think we line up pretty well against you guys in terms of the deficiencies and the strengths. But that score prediction is one that I could easily see. It's not something outlandish or offensive at all. So I'll take that. And obviously, I don't expect anything less from my compatriot on the other side of the discussion. You're gonna always back your own team, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So, but Jamie, thanks a lot for jumping on. Is there anything you want to shout out? Any stuff that WhoDey UK are putting together at all? Anything you want to shout out?
So yeah, we're doing our weekly pre-game live tailgate from 4 o'clock. That's on all of our socials on YouTube, which is Bengals UK, Facebook Bengals UK, and Twitter at WhoDey_UK. We will have Nathan and Paul doing their Monday podcast, Cincinnati, which will come out on Monday, or possibly Tuesday. They've been keeping us on our toes.
So if you want to hear two Bengals guys cry, after the Jets beat them, that's something for the Jets fans to listen to. Maybe a bit of Schadenfreude for your Monday mornings.
There you go. And And there's another thing. Oh yeah, I just want to go back to last year's podcast where I came on here. I was incredibly bullish about the Bengals' chances. I predicted like a complete drubbing, and I ended up with egg on my face. So hopefully this time it's been a little more reined in, and hopefully if a surprise does happen, it's not awful.
It's just natural, right? You're on a great streak. The Jets are struggling, and they're starting QBs out. You get a guy who's playing his first ever game. I don't ever hold it against you guys for thinking you were confident, because I wasn't confident at all. Like there was no reason to be confident until the game started. You go, hold on, what's going on here? But no, for sure, there's no hard feelings at all, because I would have been exactly the same in the opposite direction if that was the case. So we will see what happens on Sunday. But Jamie, thanks for jumping on, and we'll head back to me and David. Okay, so we'd like to thank Jamie for jumping on. Good chat with him. And David, the game on Sunday, it's our take for it now. What do you think offensively we have to do against this Bengals defense? Obviously, we had a good offensive output by the end of it. Obviously, it was a little bit disjointed at times. What do you want to see from our offense to have success against the Bengals and keep score with what you think they may?
I think it's got to be exactly the same. I think we did a good job. We have that high-low concept, kind of stressing the defense on 3 levels. And now we've got the players that can actually stress the defense on 3 levels, and that's the difference. Yeah. So, Joe's doing a good job of working through his progressions. I think, they are going to bring pressure. That's the nature of the Bengals. They've got Hendrickson, who hasn't really got going yet, but we saw last year how effective he can be. So just knowing that Joe's back there and he can identify where the pressure's coming from and get it to his hot reads, get it to his crossers. Wilson's going to have a good game again. Eli Apple's been a little bit up and down for them. He has been relatively good for them over last year, but this year he's looking a little bit vulnerable. So I think offensively, running the ball is going to be difficult because DJ Reed is in the middle done really well so far. I think Pollard had some success last week, with Dallas, but Zeke didn't really get going that much. So can we establish the run? I know we want to run a little bit, but those high-low stresses, sideline, boundaries, crossers, shadows, get them all going again. And I'd like to see us dial up a few screens because I think they are going to be overly aggressive. And we haven't really seen Metlife dial up too many screens yet, but we have the personnel to do it. We have the athletic linemen, we have some blocking tight ends, and we have 2 running backs who are fantastic yard after the catch guys. So, I would like to see us dial up a few screens. And I think if we did that, we could get success against the Bengals.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I look at this defense, there's obviously some really good players on there, but I don't see a position where our guys shouldn't match up quite well. I think that our linemen should be able to contain, if we're able to do what we did last week and kind of keep rebounding well after that really tough week 1 for the line. I see that we have enough ability in that line to really give Joe the time he needs, like he did last week. And to also make lanes in the running game, give space for the running backs to do what they need to do as well. So it is exactly what you said. It's just obviously use all the weapons that we have, distribute the ball, make it difficult, because I think we've got so much ability with all the different weapons that just distribute the ball to everyone and let everyone have a piece of this Bengals defense, and make it hard for them to really key in on one player, even though you would say they're going to have more eyes for Garrett now, and hopefully that may open up for Elijah a bit more, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the beauty of kind of what the Jets have now, is that they do have multiple weapons. They don't have to rely on one guy. But, anytime Garrett Wilson's in single coverage, I think Joe's going to look his way, because we've seen that he can win those matchups against some very good players. I mean, he won them against Denzel Ward. And yes, he did beat Martin Emerson, who's obviously a third round rookie, a few times. But there were very few cornerbacks who could keep with him in terms of his movement off the line. That's what made him a high draft pick. But if he can't get open, then Corey's still on the outside. I mean, Corey's still a handful. I know, he's not necessarily the flavour of the month with Jets fans, because we've got shiny new toys, which we all like. But you have to attribute defensive kind of assets to defend Corey, because if you don't, then he will beat you. And if he doesn't get you, Elijah Moore will. And if he doesn't, Tyler Conklin's in there. And if he doesn't, then you've got Bryce Hall out the backfield. You've got Michael Carr out the backfield. If Uzama could go, I'd like to see him get a few targets
Hopefully
against his
he's back, yeah.
old side. And hopefully Jeremy Rocket as well. I'd like to see him thrown straight back in there as well, because you don't want that drop, that one lone target and drop, to kind of fester in his mind for too long. So I'd like them to kind of get a target and a reception into his hands relatively early, just to get the confidence up. But you're absolutely right. I mean, we have multiple weapons. I mean, I still back Garrett Wilson to have a big game. But if he doesn't, then I'll back Elijah Moore. It's just about Joe moving through his progressions, seeing the whole field. He obviously likes Garrett Wilson. He went to him a lot, even when he wasn't his first read. He went to him quite a lot, so he has a trust there, and it's just about developing that trust with Elijah as well, which will come in time. But I'm really excited. I mean, do you think we can get the run game going? I think that's the biggest question for me. Can we get that run game going, just to have a little play action, get the linebackers frozen a little bit? That's going to be key for me.
Yeah, the run game is something we're going to establish more throughout the season. Going to really be able to rely on that. I think it's going to be more of a service to the QB, especially when Zach comes back. It's going to be really good. So if we get a really dominant running game while he's coming back up to speed, that's going to be really a key to having some success on offense. If you can,
I've got a little Zach toy.
A little Zach toy.
I can't see that.
No, because your bit rate is terrible, so I can't see it on the camera. I just about saw the two. Yeah, you're not the clearest. Let's just say that. Sorry. This is an audio podcast. David put up a little Zach figurine, and his video is so pixelated I could hardly see it. So
my internet's from like 1995. That's why.
Yeah,
it's because I'm down in the outside office. I'm quite far away from the house. That's why my video is not great, but it's peaceful. And that's more important, I think.
And that's the important thing for an office, yeah. But even if you and you always like that when you have the Zoom calls with work, you say, "Oh, my internet dropped out. I can't put up the video. I'm just gonna have 100%. To go audio only," and you just have it audio only. So yeah, nice little tactic there, David.
Stats on the left hand side, just scrolling through all the stats.
And that's how he does it. That's how he fits all the stuff he has to do for the newsletter. But anyway, back to the game. Yeah, I mean, do you think that where was I? I completely lost my mind in terms of the running game. You want to get it going for Zach, especially, obviously for Joe it's great, but especially for someone who's coming back into the swing of things mid-season, it's going to be really good if we can establish it this week, and then kind of carry it through to Pittsburgh and Miami as well, who are again two difficult defenses. So that would be ideal if we can do that. I mean, overall, a lot of talent. We know that we talked about the other day. Throw it all at Cincinnati, give them something to worry about, put up the points, and then rely on the defense to hold up their end of the bargain. And with the defense, what do you think the defense needs to do to really improve their performance and to really kind of stop what Cincinnati like to do?
Well, instantly you need to be better against the run. If Cincinnati are able to establish the run early and get Joe Mixon going, you're in for quite a long afternoon, because then your linebackers will start buying and Joe Burrow will find his targets. I mean, Cincinnati have a lot of targets. So if it's not Chase, they're going to be throwing to Tyler Boyd. And if it's not Tyler Boyd, it'll be T. Higgins. They've got Hayden Hurst as well, which I always forget they've now got Hayden Hurst in.
Yeah.
So, they have a lot of targets. The interesting thing last week, I'm only halfway through watching the Dallas game. I messaged friend of the pod last night, Andrew Golden, because I was watching the game, and Dallas are predominantly a cover 3 team. I mean, that's what they run. But I kept seeing them drop into cover 2 to try and keep everything in front of them. Um, and it worked really well. They kept everything in front of them. Joe Burrow went down 6 times. Some of them were coverage sacks, some of them weren't always on the offensive line, some of them were coverage. And that's because Cincinnati like those deep shots. They like to be able to push the ball downfield. Zach Taylor did that quite a lot last year. There's a little bit of discontent. I've been reading some Bengals stuff with Zach Taylor and his play calling so far this year. So how he handles it this week is going to be interesting. But I think I wouldn't mind seeing the Jets drop into a bit more cover 2 to try and keep it in front of them. Because Joe Burrow at the minute is averaging something. He averaged 5.5 yards per attempt against Dallas, which is way down on last year when he was up at 8.9. So that kind of shows their philosophy for how to handle Burrow is to keep everything in front of you. Salah talks about not kind of giving up those big explosive plays. That's going to be key this week because Chase is one of those guys that can hurt you very quickly.
Yeah.
So I think that's we want to see more from the pass rush, absolutely. The coverage is going to help that pass rush because Joe Burrow will hold on to the ball a little bit. If he doesn't see his man get open, he will hold on to the ball. I think he was running for his life against Pittsburgh. He was running for his life against Dallas. If you're looking for a game for the Jets pass rush to break out and Carl Lawson to break out, this week it's going to be the one.
Against his former
Exactly.
team. Come on,
What
Carl.
better story can you get? A couple of sacks on Joe.
His first game, his first kind of big game for the Jets against his former team. That would be really good. I mean, he looked, he obviously had that one sack, but he actually statistically did quite well last week. I think he just needs to get to the QB, get to Joe Burrow a bit, and really disruptive, and the rest of the I know JFM has been grading out well as well. Obviously, he's coming back. We got a bit of an injury there, so we'll see how much he can go, even if he can. But yeah, absolutely right. The pass rush has to. This is the one that you really got to get to the Bengals and stop them from getting the ball out to those incredible weapons they've got, and helping out the secondary who. It's going to be interesting how they try to if they target Sauce at this point because Sauce is obviously the big name, but DJ Reed has been so effective as well. What do you think? Do you think they're going to be targeting the rookie again because of maybe some of the things they might have seen with Amari Cooper last week?
Yeah, I think so. I think if we continue to play off coverage and give receivers 5-10 yards, and they're going to take what you give them, and that's where Chase will come in. We need to be wary of Chase's yards after the catch because the safeties for us haven't been great. Giving them easy completions is a way to keep it in front of you, but it's a dangerous strategy when you have someone like Chase. Your tackling's going to have to be on point. If you miss too many tackles, it's as good as an explosive player, 40-yard field, throw downfield. So I do think they'll target Sauce a little bit. If he's on Chase, they'll go to him early, just test him a little bit. If he's not, I don't think they'll necessarily look for him. I think they'll look for their receivers in their game plan and their flow as they do. DJ Reed has been the better cornerback, but Sauce has been fantastic. I mean, he's given up 41 yards or something in 2 games, which is exceptional for a rookie cornerback. So, I bet Sauce is licking his lips because he won't mind if he's being targeted. He'll want him to throw at him. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he handles his first real big receiver. Amari Cooper's a good player. Don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic player. He was a good player in Dallas. But Jamar Chase is on another level. He is
elite.
in that Justin Jefferson
elite. You're going from someone
level.
who's very good to someone who's in that elite category right now at this stage of his career. So it's a big step up. He's dealing with one of the top 5 wide receivers playing right now, and let's see.
And if he gets beat, let's not panic. If he gets beat, let's not panic. I mean, it's his third game in the league. He's going against one of the best. Jamar Chase is being paid to do a job. He's being paid to beat his man, just like Sauce is being paid to not let him get those catches. So if he gets beat, he gets beat. He'll learn from it. He'll come back better. There's no need to panic if he gives up a long one.
No, I guess what you want to see is a bit of competitive. Like he may get beat on one play, and then he obviously does a pass deflection on another one. He gets beat on another. Maybe he's able to get an interception on other ones. Like if you have that back and forth, that would be a really positive day because there's a good chance that Jamar Chase, whoever he goes up against, is going to get his at some point. Like he's just such a good player. You can't.
And sometimes you can play the best coverage in the world, can't you? Like Bryce Hall in week 1. I mean, I know he was inactive in week 2, pretty unlucky to be inactive in week 2. But that one, he gave up a touchdown in week 1. I think he was targeted once. But he played outstanding coverage. That was fantastic coverage on the play. The receiver just went out and made a play. And that's what they're being paid to do. So um, if Sauce gets beat, like you said, absolutely right. I just want to see him win a couple. If he's going to be targeting a few pass breakups. If he gives up a touchdown, he gives up a touchdown. He'll learn from it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a really interesting matchup to see how. I mean, our linebackers are going to have to really, see. Joe Mixon is another great weapon they have. We've talked about these wide receivers, but he's another great receiver, kind of receiving option at the backfield, and also a great runner. So that our linebackers are going to have to be, continuing to improve as well, and to be better than we were last year, which. It's never over until we get a good set of games. We never have that confidence in stopping the run until we see it, especially what happened last week. And I know last week is almost an exceptional case because it's like you're just dealing with just two people who just replace each other, and it can be just so difficult. But we did see them. We did see the running game of the Browns take over, which is a little bit what happened last year. So we obviously want to do a better performance with Joe Mixon. At least when he comes out. It's not Kareem Hunt. It's Samaje Perine. Nothing. No diss to Samaje Perine, but it's a bit different of a drop off compared to the other two. So
Perine's going to absolutely kill us now.
Of course, I've queued it. I've queued it up beautifully, haven't I now? Oh, for goodness sake! But no, it's really exciting to be back. Second home game. We got the Bengals again, a good opponent. They're going to be desperate, but we have got a chance to really make a statement play. If we can beat them. And go to 2-1, then the narratives that the Jets are just like the same old Jet. The overall, we've been looking at it closely. We know that things have been improving internally, structurally, but just the outside narrative, you'd like that just to change a bit, just to calm down a bit, just like, can we just be treated like just one of the 32 and not just some sort of like the outsider, the person who's put on the bottom of the pile. So it'll be really good statement games. Go out there, beat a good team, and set ourselves up for a really promising season if we can. Because obviously we looked at this first 9 games and we thought wins are going to be difficult. If we can start stacking a few wins or getting a few wins out of this, this is a game for them. We can really take this game. We really should be able to take this game.
If you hand the reins back to Zach Wilson at 2-1. I mean, that's beyond anyone's expectation for when he was going to be coming back. So
yeah,
I mean, this game is absolutely for the taking. I mean, they need to win it. So the pressure, if we go up early, there'll be a lot of pressure on Cincinnati to kind of accelerate and come back quickly because the longer the game goes on with them looking at an 0-3 hole, the more nerves will creep in, the more Zach Taylor will maybe make a few mistakes in terms of his play calling. Joe Burrow might make a few mistakes. I was just looking at the offensive linemen. So Jonah Williams is their left tackle. So I was thinking, okay, well, who's Carl Lawson going to go up against? And Jonah Williams has basically been the main culprit, according to PFF. Obviously, I didn't watch the Pittsburgh game. I've only halfway through the Dallas game. But Jonah Williams is given up 3 sacks and 10 pressures in 2 games. I mean, he that is. I don't want to say it again because we kind of said it against Baltimore that this is absolutely primed for a Carl Lawson game. But going against someone who's struggling, Jonah Williams is struggling. Him against his former team.
And Lyle Collins looks like he's got a bit of a back issue. He didn't practice yesterday. Obviously, that's just keep an eye out for that, and if whether a bit of backup comes in for Lyle Collins, and then obviously then you look on the other side as well. There'll be some potential feasting to be had there as well. So for sure, I mean, just going back to Zach Taylor with the heat on him. I mean, he had 2 really rough years to start off his career, and then obviously had this one magical year, which has brought him a lot of leeway. But those 2 years can't be forgotten just because you've paired up Chase and Burrow again in Cincinnati. They went off. No one expected anything, and obviously all the pressure was off them, and they kind of superseded expectations. But another bad season, and he's out because I mean, like I say, that's 3 out of 4 bad years. So definitely the pressure starts to build up when you got the Super Bowl expectations from last year and you go 0-3. What are the chances? I know we're at a 17 game season, but even at 17 games, the chances of getting into the playoffs when you start 0-3 are very slim. So they're going to be really fighting for it, and it could turn into a negative situation for them. So if we can keep calm and put them into a bad situation, they could start beating themselves up. So that's the hope. And we pray for a good game. And again, we just let's just give them a good game again. I'm not going to be like dejected if we lose a close game. Of course, you want to win every single game and have those, feeling of victory Monday and stuff that we had this week. But again, just give this good team that we know, a good team, they're AFC reigning champions. Give them a good game. Honestly, I'm really excited for this game, for us to go up against a team this good. So, David, is there anything you want to say to listeners for what you got, cooking for the rest of the week in the newsletter?
So tomorrow's going to be the game preview, kind of standard Friday fare. This morning, we're recording us on Thursday, so today's newsletter was just about Garrett Wilson, a little bit extra on how good he is and how he could have had a huge game. So go check that out. But I'm just really looking forward. I'm looking forward to college football on Saturday. I'm looking forward to NFL football on Sunday. Just having football weekends back is just awesome. So
Yeah.
and the Rangers start next week as well. So happy days. You get some hockey takes on the
Okay.
Jets UK podcast coming up. Andres will try and stop him, but he's not going to be able to because
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. We've got
Rangers going all the
we've
way
got the
this
Knicks
year.
coming as well. I'm sure
Knicks are
all
coming.
the sports, all the teams
All
that you
the sports.
suffer with,
Go sports.
all the suffering New York teams that you've got that you support. But hopefully, it's a good season for everyone, including the Jets. And like I said, we hope everyone has a good day on Sunday. Enjoy if you're watching it over in Metlife, or you're watching it in London, or anywhere in the UK, or in Europe, or anywhere around the world. To be honest, if you're a Jets fan, I saw some of the Japanese fans going crazy for that game. Awesome to see. Absolutely love it. So yeah, any listeners around the world, enjoy the game on Sunday. We'll be back for our recap right on the day after. So have a great day, and we'll see you after the game.